Welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast, brought to you by Phoenix Boats. Now, here are your hosts, Alabama Bass Trail Program Director, Kay Donaldson.
Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail, and your host for this week's podcast. And we are done, wrapped up. Regular season 2024 is in the books, and I don't think it could have ended in a crazier, wilder, greater fashion. We finished up on Lake Guntersville. If you listened to the podcast last week, you know that it is a very special place for me, as well as the Alabama Bass Trail. It's where we kicked off our first event in February 2014, and it is where we wrapped up our 11th season. So really cool event. If you watch live, you saw it all transpire there. If you haven't watched live, I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, Alabama Bass Trail TV. Click on the live tab. You'll be able to go right to it. Absolutely fishing clinics put on. Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker, we saw them fishing. But really, when you take a look at Fisher and Ryan Anaya, who we're going to have on in just a little bit, you got to see a fantastic display of fishing. And then also Justin Bussey and Ben Webb, who walked away with the Angler of the Year in the North, but also the overall Angler of the Year. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to try to have CJ Knight, Anthony Goggins, the South Anglers of the Year, as well as Justin Bussey and Ben Webb on next week's podcast to talk about their year on the Alabama Bass Trail. We'll talk about their finishes. It was real interesting talking to Ben and Justin in the afternoon on Saturday. And I don't always realize this until I start really digging in and looking at the data. But they did not finish lower than 17th all year, and that was at Smith Lake. So they just had a phenomenal year, and you saw why if you watched live on Saturday. Those guys caught them. And it was really just it was really magical if you watch live to be able to see almost everybody we pulled up to caught fish. And it was very quick, and but guys were catching fish all day. Even when Ryan and Fisher came in, there was another school of fish that they were sitting on, but they knew that they had a fish struggling. They did have a dead fish penalty, and they knew they had one struggling, so they just came on in anyway. So, and that's why we do that. Open the scales up 2 hours prior to official weigh-in time. Gives our guys a chance to bring those fish in and not have those significant dead fish penalties and not have as many dead fish. I will say we had more dead fish this time than I had hoped for. It's really unavoidable in the summertime. You have people, I know we had several on stage that commented that we shouldn't be fishing this late in June. You had some that absolutely love summertime fishing. So one thing I've learned in this business, you're not going to please everyone. You're not going to please the keyboard warriors. You're going to have some anglers that are not going to like it. You're going to have some anglers that aren't going to like fishing in freezing temperatures. We heard that earlier this year. So you're not going to please everyone. And I really don't know what else to say other than if we have a 5-tournament series, you pretty much have to spread them out over 5 months, especially when we have 2 series plus the ABT 100. It's impossible to have all of these tournaments prior to June. So I feel fairly certain had the people that fussed about it caught 27 pounds, they probably wouldn't have been fussing that we were fishing that late in June. So I guess maybe you could say 11 seasons in this business may make me a little salty, but it just makes me a little more honest, actually. I do want to talk a little bit about Guntersville by the numbers before we get our champs on. We're going to have Fisher Anaya and Ryan Anaya on in just a little bit to talk about their season. Also to just kind of talk about high school bass fishing. That's kind of where Fisher started and just kind of see where it goes from here. But I did want to talk about the numbers. We did an 8-hour minimum fishing day. We got out of there just about 5:15 Saturday morning. We had 206 teams show up at the ramp, 180 teams weighed in one or more bass, 152 teams weighed in limits. There were 850 bass caught. Out of that, 828 were largemouth, and 22 of those were spots and no smallmouth. That's important simply because if you watch the Toyota Series earlier in the year and some other tournaments earlier in the year when they allowed them to lock to Wheeler, that number was not the same. You saw almost 30 pounds of smallmouth weighed in on Guntersville when you allow them to lock. So that tells me smallmouth don't live there. We put out 206 teams of the best fishermen across the United States, and they brought in no smallmouth on Saturday. Those fish should have been put back in Wheeler Lake. That's just my opinion. I've talked about that several times. It really burns my biscuit because I'm from Wheeler and our fishery is precious as well. So 828 largemouth, 22 spotted bass were weighed in, 64 bass over 5 pounds weighed in on Saturday. Your big fish of the tournament was 7.75. Your winning weight was 26.34. That is with a 1 pound dead fish penalty. So in essence, 27.34. Total weight for the tournament, 2,742.16 pounds. And that is Guntersville by the number. Again, we had more dead fish than I wanted to. And the reason I'm not reporting dead fish right now is because I want to see how many of those came to the scales dead and how many of them were lost after they got into our tanks. I'm going to say most of those were brought and presented at the bump sink dead. I did watch our guys work with some of the anglers that came in early. I watched 3 of our guys work with fish to see if they were actually alive before they called them dead. And several of the guys were working on them to see if they could get any type of movement but call them dead before they called them dead. So our guys work really hard to make sure that we report accurate data to the state. Again, that's why I'm not saying that right now, but I did pull a few more years and I was looking at that. 2023 isn't exactly comparing apples to apples simply because we fished there in March of 2023. But just relative to that, 222 teams showed up, 182 teams weighed in 1 bass or more, and there were 82 limits. I want you to think about that. March 18th, pre-spawn, should be perfect conditions, okay, for bass fishing. 82 teams weighed limits. In June of 2024, hot summer day, 152 limits were weighed in. I'm saying that because I hope some haters out there on social media will hear this and understand that all things put together doesn't mean that everything is going to be better in the springtime. So, there's so many things that go into making a tournament good, a fishery good, and all of that. That being said, 660 bass were caught in March. Okay. 578 largemouth, 78 spotted bass, and 4 smallmouth. Total weight 2,228.83 pounds. Still not bad. 90 fish over 5 pounds, 2 fish over 8. Your big fish was an 8.99. Winning weight 29.55. So that was in 2023. That was a March date, March the 18th. So if you want to get a little more comparable to apples, we'll go back to 22. June 11th of 22. Okay, June 11th, still a June date. 206 teams fished, the exact same as what fished Saturday. Number of teams weighing in more than 1 bass, 160. This year, 180. Number of teams with limits, 125 back in 22 and 152 in 2024. Largemouth weighed in, we had 720 bass weighed in. This year we had 850. We had 699 largemouth. This year we had 828 largemouth. We had 21 spotted bass weighed in 2022, and we had 22 spotted bass weighed in this year. So a different, same number of teams fishing, okay? Same number of teams fishing, 2 weeks apart. We had 850 bass caught compared to 720. We had 125 teams weigh limits in 2022. we had 152 teams weigh limits this year. Difference of the weight's a little over 500 pounds different in the weight, which is notable because you had 30 more teams weighing in. But 2 years separated, 10 days or so separated on dates. More fish weighed in 2024 than were weighed in 2022, and more bigger fish were weighed in 2024 than in 2022. So a lot of things going on the internet about fish kills, and we hate to see them at all. Hate to see a fish kill. Unfortunately, it is part of the progression of fishing. It is part of the progression of being a fish. It's just like being a human. You're born, you live, and you die. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take care of fish. That's why the Alabama Bass Trail has the biggest, strongest dead fish penalty in all of bass fishing, is because we believe in conservation. So again, 26.34 is the weight that it took to win. Fisher Anaya, Ryan Anaya, they walk away with a win. They had 5 fish, 1 dead. They took home $15,300 for the win. Going to talk about that a little bit. Really cool story. The first 3 teams, first, second, and third, were all father-son teams. So that's really cool. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the conversation with Fisher and Ryan. But did want to talk about that just a little bit in the first segment. Next segment, Fisher and Ryan Anaya, they will join us here on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. We'll talk Guntersville, we'll talk points, we'll talk Bass Team Championship, we'll talk Alabama Bass Trail Team Championship. We'll talk it all with Fisher and Ryan here in just a moment. So you guys stay tuned on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. We'll be right back.
Big banks only care about one thing: ROI. So when it comes to your small business, you can expect a big no. At AmFirst, we don't just invest in your business. We invest in you and your goals. With great rates on loans, lines of credit to help you grow, and business checking accounts. Because at AmFirst, business is personal.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And I know that you guys want to hear from the guys I have on screen now, Mr. Fisher Anaya and Ryan Anaya, your 2024 Lake Guntersville champions, the Alabama Bass Trail champions on Lake Guntersville. Fisher, I see a little smirk there. You like the way that sounds?
Yeah, it actually sounds pretty nice.
Good deal. Good deal. I'm so glad to have y'all on. I mean, I guess surprised anyone. Kelly, Ryan, we've been friends for a good while now, and you've taken a time off. I know you fished with someone else, but then you took some time off. Wanted to be captain to Mr. Fisher during the high school tournaments, but decided this year y'all would take on the Alabama Bass Trail together. And what a season you guys have had.
It's been phenomenal.
I have to say now, Fisher, you fished a lot this year. Your dad's kind of taking a back seat to kind of going and being kind of your camera guy and your hype guy and just kind of the mentor. Talk
Right.
about your year thus far, what you started out fishing, and then talk about your Alabama Bass Trail season.
I fished the BFLs, the Toyotas, a few high school tournaments, and the Alabama Bass Trail. And I think this year I fished like 6 high school tournaments. I won 3 of them and finished second in 3 of them. And then I know I fished the Toyotas, which I finished third in the AOY in those. I had like a 19th at Guntersville, a 30th at Smith, and a third at Chickamauga. And the BFLs, I think I finished in the top 5 of the 3 I've had this year. So we go to Neely here in 2 months. So that's an arch right now. So we'll see how that goes. That's the only one that kind of hurt us this year in the Alabama Bass Trail. I mean, we had all top 15 finishes except that one. I think we finished, 100 something in that one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I know your dad
year.
has some bad blood with Neely too. I can remember from a year or so ago, he didn't much like Neely. You've had a great season, but you've had a jam-packed season. You
Right.
haven't just got to stay on Guntersville. You've been kind of all over the map with your different fishing. So I think that's something to say too. We've said it with the Godwin brothers. We've said it with Wesley Gore. And I guess, we've said it with you. Time on the water It doesn't really matter if you have the right equipment if you're not staying on the water and perfecting your craft.
Right.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your season on the Alabama Bass Trail. When you signed up for the Alabama Bass Trail, what were your thoughts going into it, Fisher, honestly?
That I wanted to win. I was going into it with, I mean, I had my momentum going so far this year. Everything's been going good. So, and then the first two tournaments, I mean, it was like spot on. Like we didn't miss a beat. We showed up to the first one, no practice, 19 pounds, finished like 12th at Pickwick. And I was like, it's just gonna lay out. And we went to Smith, and it happened again. Like never in my life have I stopped on a point at Smith and caught 5 over like 3.5 pounds on 5 casts in my life. But it did it. We did it in like 10 minutes at Smith. So I'm like, it's just gonna lay out. And then there was that one on that the what would you call it, the schedule that was Neely, and I looked at that one and looked at that. I said that's gonna be the one that gets us. Like if we can get by with that one, we will be fine. And it just didn't happen. We had the bites to do it. Like I figured a little bit of an off the wall deal down on the lower lake, and I had 2 big ones spawning or post spawn on stumps out in the middle of nowhere, and I lost both of them. So it was just one of those days where it didn't line up. And then you got the one gig, the one on Guntersville. That was the one I checked off at the start. I said if I don't finish top 3 in that one, I'm going to be kind of pissed off.
Well, and I can understand that. Ryan, I guess probably the one that shocked me the most was Pickwick because I followed you. Was it a Toyota series that you fished on Guntersville leading into Pickwick?
Yes.
Okay. So I think a lot of people are sitting there going, okay, you basically ran in the meeting on Friday night to get checked in and all the things, even just a tad bit late simply because of trying to get from Guntersville to Pickwick. It's not the easiest drive in the whole wide world. You get there and then you come in, like you said, 19 pounds, like a 12th or 17th place finish, something like that. That was a incredible start to the season. I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little surprised just because I'd been watching you all week there. Can you really relate Guntersville and Pickwick?
I mean, you can, yes. So the one thing I put together, like on Guntersville, I mean, and it's happened a lot this year, is the forward-facing sonar. Everybody's using it, and it's been one of those deals you can't compete in the grass. And they turned on so much current that week because of the rain we had. So I tried to scope at Guntersville, but I went to the grass and I stayed in the creeks, and I was able to scope in some of them lower, like the lower creeks on Guntersville, and I was catching them on a trap, chatterbait in the grass. And heck, I was catching 19 pounds a day, and I was falling. So I was like, I mean, you can't be mad at it. But we went into Pickwick with like, I looked at the map, went all the way lower Lake, went Yellow Creek. I said, it's going to be the clearest creek. It's deep. It's got timber, anything like that in it. And it ain't got current on it. So we run all the way down there and just went to scoping in the 3-foot waves we had to run in going down there. But we got down there in one piece and we just hunkered down and started scoping. And I mean, it was slow. Like it didn't happen. Like it's one of those days you're like, you ain't gonna catch them. It's how it was supposed to go. We're not gonna catch them. Didn't have practice. Like that's usually how it's gonna go. And then it just like a blink of an eye, we had 19 pounds on 5 casts.
Wow. Ryan, talk about how you send your son out 17, because when he started the year, he's 17 years old. You sending him out to compete against the Jordan Wiggins, the Jesse Wiggins, the guys you've competed alongside for a lot of years. How do you mentally do that?
It took some time. It didn't happen overnight. So we started working this whole scenario back when he was 12. We started building him up, working him, and it took a lot of time to get his mentality where it needs to be. And it's still not perfect, but he's a lot further along than most. And it's his confidence level. We built that, and I told him, I said, son, you don't need to be cocky, but you need to be to the point when you walk up, you know you're going to win, and it don't matter who's there, whether it be Swindle, Jay Lee, Wiggins, it don't matter. Kevin Van Dam. And he's picked that swagger up. So when you ask him, and I've got a lot of my buddies, they say that's what sets Fisher apart. It don't matter where he can go to Inland Lakes over in Aniana. He can go to Smith. It doesn't matter. What are you going to catch today? He's going to tell you, I'm going to catch 20 pounds. In his mind, he's dead set that's what he's going to do. So you got to think it if you're going to do it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a long road, but he's got there. He's getting there. And he's still got a lot to grow and learn.
Well, I mean, certainly fishing can be a humbling sport, but it certainly has played out thus far in your favor moving forward. I know you've got some big tournaments left to fish this year, but let's talk about Guntersville for just a little bit. I know you're a little hesitant about wanting a camera on you, so we still put one on you because you were in the top 9, but we sent Darian, who I know is a friend. You know, Darian knows you guys. You've kind of grown up watching Darian, whether it be fishing or whatever. So talk a little bit about the morning. What boat number were you?
We were boat 63, and the funny thing is, you can hear Darian say we've never made a cast on this spot. So it was. I didn't practice Friday. I only practiced Thursday. I didn't want people seeing me, and I spent a whole day just idling. And when I say I never touched a rod Thursday, I never touched one. Just trying to find some off the wall stuff that they might not have got beat on. If it's a school of 5, 10, just smaller schools. And on my last idle before I was about to go in, when I hit the gas to take off, I seen them dotted up going off this little drop off on the down scan. I was kind of like, that sort of looked like bass. And I idled back down it, and lo and behold, there was like 400 of them there. So I marked them and just kind of rode in. I told Dad, I was like, I don't know what we can catch. I think we can catch 18, 19, maybe 20 off of them fairly quick. And we got there. The eelgrass was just matted up on them. So I'm like, yeah, this ain't going to go good. And it was one of those deals you just had to sit there and just wait it out, because I knew if we left, we're never going to get on nothing else, because everybody's on everything. Because, I mean, the dudes in this competition are the best of the best, so they found everything. And we got on them somehow, and we just sat there, and every 5 minutes we'd get a clearance in the grass to make a throw. And when you made a throw, it was lights out. Like, you could tell they ain't seen a bait. And, I mean, by 7:30, we had 27 pounds.
That's awesome. Ryan, I know as dad, you're probably working a lot. You're not getting to go and practice as much. How confident are you in the practice that Fisher puts in?
I wouldn't put my money on anybody else but him. I mean, I've been with him enough. I know exactly how he thinks, how he's trained to think, how he's just mentally sound, and I know what he does, and it's flawless. Can he stumble? By all means, yes. He can overlook stuff, but especially the Tennessee River, when he goes out, the only thing I worry about, like in that Toyota series and the BFLs, is 4 and 5 foot waves.
Yeah.
And I've been in them. I know what can be happening, what tear up. And just to send him out at 17-year-old, I'm thinking, all you can do is just say a prayer.
Yep.
I've got to let him go, and I've kind of let him go in the last couple of years because he's got to do it on his own. And got to be with him, got to take care of him.
That's
He
right.
always will, but I'm confident when I go out with this dude, we're going to catch him. Just point blank, we're going to catch him.
Fisher, when you got there and the eelgrass is blown in and kind of covering your spot, how do you mentally stay in it? I know you got a PMA hat on. I know that's big. I know you and Gerald, very good friends, as I am with Gerald. Talk a little bit about that. You get there. How does it not spin you out?
Really just living on the Tennessee River and being on Guntersville, and know, hey, we got a little bit of wind. There was a little bit of current, like it's gonna blow off. And that's the big thing Gerald has taught me. If there's one thing that the major thing he's taught me, it's always stay positive. You're not gonna catch them in every single one of them. You can't go into the mindset of, you have the mindset you're going to catch them, but if you don't catch them, it just ain't going to happen. Go to the next one. So I knew what was laying underneath the eelgrass, and I told Dad, I was like, if we can just get 5 casts down there, we're going to have 20 pounds. And we just sat there and just stayed. We just sit there and joke, just throwing the eelgrass, just mess around like there wasn't no pressure. We were just there. And I told him, I was like, if we don't catch them, we don't catch them, but it's going to clear out. When it cleared out, it just went down.
Okay, I want you to talk a little bit about, scope has been kind of the controversy of the year. We've had a lot of people come out against it. A lot of people are for it. The younger generation seems to really like it. The older generation's not so much for it. We saw a little bit of that on camera. You guys did some scoping, but we saw some other guys that were fishing very similar to y'all. They may have scoped them and found them, and then they didn't use it as much as you guys did. So talk about why you think it's such an important tool in your arsenal.
I think why it's such an important tool is because I can tell, like I've did it so much here in the past year and a half, 2 years. I can tell you how big the fish is sitting down there. Like when I put the trolling motor down, I can scan around and say, all right, your big school's on the right. There's a bunch of 3-pounders. There might be a 5 mixed in, But it was like when we were there, I told Dad, I said, look off the side of the ledge, and you could see when the ledge, like it made a flat bar, but when it dropped off, the 5-pounders were on the drop off side. So I knew, like when I scanned over, I said, there's your big ones. And I just kept making casts over there. And it might have been a bite every 40 casts, but every time I got a bite, it was a 5-pounder.
Okay. Let's talk about more of that. Let's talk about how your setup was. I know you had some new Crush City stuff that came out. We'll let you talk about. I know it's going to be expoed at ICAST. So talk a little bit about what your setup was on Saturday.
So what all I used was I used a VMC head. It's not out yet. It's coming out at ICAST. I used a Mooch Minna. It's not out yet. It will be coming out at ICAST. It's a smaller profile minnow. It's made out of Elastec. It don't rip. It don't tear. So I can catch as many as I want to catch on it. So it's worth the money, and the action on it's flawless. And I also used a freeloader on the same exact head. I'm using I think it's a 6'9" Muse spinning rod, a medium, and I'm throwing 10-pound braid to an 8-pound leader. And that's a major thing is that the suffix 8-pound leader and even a 6-pound leader, like those fish see the line, and everybody says it don't make a difference. Like I've noticed, if you downsize line, you'll get more bites. Now you can hear Darian say he's fighting it real easy. That line will break. Like I have a bad habit of wanting to slack line like I'll get out because I grew up next to Swindle. I don't want to jerk. But I've trained myself to load, just kind of be easy with them. I mean, and you'll land more on a spinning rod than you will on a bait caster. That's another thing. Like you will not lose them. But Dad sit back behind me, and I said, "You look like an old man back there." He's throwing a new janitor worm. It ain't out yet. It'll be out at ICAST, and he was just Nicoing it, and he would throw it out there. And it wasn't like hop it, reel it in. It was throw it out there and just let it sit there. Like it might be down there 5 minutes before one finally swims over and picks it up. So we just really had to slow down with the stuff that we wasn't scoping because they see it all the time. They see a bunch of worms, they see a bunch of crankbaits, and they also see a bunch of minnows. So it's more how you work it and judging. I can tell how a fish reacts, how it's going to want it, and everything like that. Just understanding the fish.
Ryan, about how deep were y'all fishing on Saturday?
Anywhere from 12 to 15 foot, probably.
Okay. I know y'all had the one fish that did die before you got to the scales. How were your fish in like general health when you got back to the scales?
They were pretty good. We had one that had turned a little bit of color, but she didn't look good from the get-go, like right off the bat. The one that actually died on us, I actually caught it on the janitor, Crush City New Worm, Nico rigging it, and the circle hook had went in her tongue/gill right in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And Darian had it on camera, and we doused her with Mountain Dew. But when I said she was bleeding, she was like bleeding a thick red blood, and I knew it wasn't good. Anytime you hook it, it's not good. She was fine until 10:30, and we looked back there, and it was like within seconds she just turned and just died.
Yeah.
And I knew it would come. That's the only thing worried me because I told Fisher, I was like, if we have one die, we're going to have to weigh in early because we can't afford to have two if something were to happen. Because then we would have been 30th, and that happened. Not with if we'd have had 23, we might have gambled a little bit, but I wouldn't gamble with 27.
Right. So you got the win that automatically punches your ticket to the championship. Fisher, I haven't been able to really track your results on Lay Lake. I know your dad came in second, I think, at the ABT 100 down there on a very cold January day a couple years ago. But what's your history been on Lay Lake?
I've had some really, really bad ones, and I've had some really good ones. Like I figured out a deal, which I think everybody's kind of caught on to it, but I figured it out like 3 years ago. And we busted them. We had like 14 pounds of spots, finished like second, or I think we finished second in that one. But I really ain't been down there that much. So I'm going to put a bunch of time in and practice down there. And I really don't know, like it's going to be hit or miss because I got a BFL regional on Clark's Hill the same exact day. So I don't know if I'm going to go to that and Dad's going to fish Lay Lake by himself. I don't know exactly what we're going to do. So we're still trying to figure all that out.
Yeah, that gets kind of crunched up in the fall time, doesn't it?
Yeah, I got one like every weekend.
Wow. Wow. I know you said you came through the high school, you fished ASA, BFA. I know you fished some airport, you fished some Bass Nation stuff. Talk about the progression from that leading into the Alabama Bass Trail, how that has prepared you or how it hasn't. Either way that goes.
I mean, the main thing is like when I first started, like I'll look back at it now and be like, dude, you suck. Like you are god awful. And thought I knew everything. Like I thought I was good. And I mean, over the years of just fishing them and slowly getting better, like my first 2 years, my junior years, I never won a tournament. I might have finished second like 5 times, but I never won. And it was like it wasn't going my way. And it was like my freshman year, I won two. I won a state championship and a normal one. So I'm like, it really boosted my confidence. So like that got my confidence going into every single tournament. Like I'm gonna win. Like ain't no one gonna beat me. I'm not doing that to be cocky, but it helps me go into it with a lot of confidence, and that's a lot of thing that does with your mental side of things, where you don't get spun out.
Mm-hmm.
It really just built up my confidence to fish these bigger level tournaments, and that's the main thing is confidence in your mental statement.
Um, we talked about this a little on Saturday. Our first three teams, first, second, and third, are father-son teams. What did it mean for you to fish with your dad on Saturday and take that win?
It meant a lot because I know there's not many more of them left. Because if I go get in the opens and qualify for that, and then the elites, everything, like I'm gonna be slam full. So it meant a lot. Like that was one on the checklist that I was like I wanted to win. Like it meant a lot because I fished them for 3 years, and I mean the last 2 years I fished them, I've struggled. Like we ain't done worth the crap. Like we've been in like last year, I think our worst finish was 52nd, and our best finish was 48. Like we were right there single time. So it was just like last year wasn't our year, and this year it kind of clicked. Like I mean, every place it went, it's like I couldn't make a wrong move.
Yeah.
So it meant a lot. So I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to win it with anybody else.
Ryan, I'll pose that same question to you.
It really hits home. I try not to let the emotions take over because I know I'm not going to say coming to an end because I'm still going to be able to fish with him, whether we get in the 100s or whatever, we'll still be able to fish together. But I know, as a parent, he's getting older, he's fixing to be on his own. And it sucks. I mean, that's basically what it does. You're going through the same thing with kids and everything else. But dude, it's just I was wanting to. That's why I told him. I said, dude, I want to win one of these with you so bad because the level of competition in the Alabama Bass Trail. I mean, it's hands down. It's tough. It's tough to win one. Bussy and them, hats off to them for finishing like they did. Dude, they had a phenomenal year. And I talked to him a little bit. I said, dude, we stumbled one time.
Mm-hmm.
All it took to drop us, didn't drop out, but we dropped down. Catchable. We couldn't catch them.
Right. Yeah, they had a phenomenal year. I think they only had one tournament. They finished in 17th place. I think that was at Smith. They had a really good year, and they put on a clinic between the side-by-side with you guys and them on live. It was just so cool to sit there and watch. I mean, you're doing some of the same things, but some were very different too. So it was really cool. As far as live coverage this year, to me, this tournament and Eufaula was probably some of the best live coverage we've seen. Wheeler was good, but as far as being able to see it really go across multiple teams and be able to pull up and see every team we pulled up on catch fish, we saw that on Saturday. So Guntersville's a special place.
And some probably don't even know. So after the tournament, I was talking to Bussy and them, and me and Fisher pulled up the live, but we weighed in early. So we went and sat in the truck and was just sitting there. So we pulled up live and was watching it back because we didn't get to see any of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Fisher's like, dude, they're on that other school. We had 7 schools found, not community holes, 7 sneak hole schools found. The first one, it was open. We agreed that's where we're stopping, and that's where we did stop. Nobody was on it. The second one, Bussy and him was sitting on. So Fisher's like, dude, there's no way they found that school. I was like, dude, they're good. So I talked to him. He's like, dude, I graphed and graphed and graphed. He said, I told my partner, he said, nobody ever find this school. It's in the most remote, unorthodox place you'll ever see. And I said, well, we found it. I'm not lying to you. We did find that school because we did run to it at 10:30 or 11. It wasn't far away just to see if we could get on it, and it was matted with eelgrass. He said that's the reason they left. It got unfishable. The dudes in ABT are good. You're not going to go uncover any rock that they hadn't already turned over 4 or 5 times.
Well, listen to Fisher talk about on Thursday, him just graphing and listening to Justin Bussey and Ben talk. I know another guy that did a whole lot of that. His name was Aaron Martins, and he spent a lot of times in the boat graphing that he never touched a rod, and he had a pretty successful career. Looking back and all of that, he had a pretty successful career. And I think time on the water and learning how that wind is going to affect that eelgrass and when you can expect it to change and when current is going to affect this spot. I think all of that is just time on the water. And it's obvious that you guys have put your time in on the water. I know Fisher does the majority of y'all's pre-fishing now because Dad's over here working and all that. And this is what he wants to do when he grows up. I keep saying when he grows up. He's 18. I know he's not a baby anymore, but they're still our babies. But it's been fun to kind of watch him grow up and how he's handled the pressure, because I think you've had a camera or a tracker in just about every tournament that we've had this year. That's a part of it that you're going to have when you go to the opens and the elite series and all that, and learning how to tell your story on camera. And I thought you did a great job of that on Saturday. Does that put added pressure on you, or do you just put it out of your mind?
It don't put much pressure on me. I mean, we just going to fish. But I will say this: the one thing, every time that camera boat left, we did catch a 5.5 pounder. I'm like, every time Darren would pull up, I was like, you need to go on, just leave one more. Every time he come back, he's like, he would swing by, what do you got? And he'd be like, 21. He'd leave, come back, what do you got? 25. He'd leave, come back. And I was like, all right, last time, what do you got? And I said, 27. He was like, good God Almighty.
Well, he's been there. He understands it from winning an Alabama Bass Trail there in June in 2017. I know he was super excited. He was nervous all day for y'all just because of covering y'all and everything else. And he got a chance to cover Shane Powell down on Eufaula and got to see that, transpire. Didn't go Shane Powell's way the way it went your way, but Darian was like that all day with that too, wondering if they ever got on those schools and that they were hoping to get on and all of that. So, all right. So we've talked a little bit about Lay Lake, the Ouachita River in Monroe, Louisiana. Either of you have any experience down there at all?
Never heard of it.
I don't think anybody's ever heard of it, honestly.
I do know a little bit about it as far as just reading, since I heard where it was coming out and going to, and I thought it was, Lake Ouachita, and I thought, well, that's going to be a scoping lake, but this is totally different. It's a river.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I do think, like, from the people that I've gathered, that knows anything about it, 15 pounds a day will be pretty stout down there on a multi-day event.
Yeah.
But you can't 20, I heard too.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting. I think we've got 18 teams of really good anglers going down there. I look forward to getting more information on that so I can pass it along to you guys. But I know there's a lot of fishing left to do before you get to December, but I just wanted to say congratulations. I'm so proud for you, proud of you. I love the big check sitting there behind you. I hope that stays as a display. I'm surprised you didn't take your mama's picture off the wall and put that up there, but Kelly probably would have had a little bit of a fit. Maybe not. She was pretty excited Saturday.
Oh, yeah. He's going to room. He said, can I hang this in my room? I said, I don't care. Do whatever you want to.
Well, Mom seemed pretty excited. You had a good fan club there on Saturday. You can talk a little bit about what that means to you, because you've got a lot of, I know your grandmother's already sent me a message on one of the social media pages, how proud she is of you and her son.
Right. It means a lot. Like, I have my mom, my dad, and my grandma, all of them, like every one of them. And my Paul and Nana would have been there, but he had back surgery, so he couldn't make it. But he was the first one to call as soon as I waited. So, like, I have all those people there that support me, and even my girlfriend. Like, she's there every single time. Even if she ain't got work, she's there. She takes off work. She's gonna be there. And I mean, every one of them just, they couldn't even sit still. They were all, like, I mean, just excited. And I mean, most people don't get excited for someone else that wins. So it means a lot to show that they really care.
I saw Roman Calvert and his dad sit there all the way through check presentation. They've been out there for 10 and a half, 12 hours. They said all the way through check presentation, all the way to y'all got finished with your Academy Sports and Outdoors wrap up. and waited to tell you congratulations. I thought that was, just total respect from those guys wanting to wait to tell you congratulations. I saw that, thought that was really cool. Those are the fun stories on the Alabama Bass Trail, that guys are waiting till you finish all of that after they've been out there 10 or 12 hours in the heat to say congratulations and recognize your accomplishment.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Ryan's dads, I think they're two great people. I've known them for a little while fishing Smith and whatnot. And Roman and Shannon, they always talk to me and they always talk good about me when I'm not there.
Those are the people you want to be in the conversation with, is people who will talk good about you in a room you're not in. That's for sure. That's for
Right.
sure. Ryan, you got anything left to say before I let y'all go? I'm sure you got a little bit of work to do today.
Yeah, I just took off and grabbed some lunch real quick, and Fisher's at the house and I'm working. But yeah, I'm ready for this heat to leave a little bit. We can go fishing again. But this fall is going to be jam packed. Like I said, he's got a bunch of big events still coming up. He's got the BFLs to finish out. Maybe he can pull out an AOY in that. He won AOY in high school this year. We've got the nationals coming up at Chick. He's probably going to take off. I'll probably go with him. I think the end of this week, we're going to go up there and spend 2 or 3 days because it goes off limits Sunday, I think, the 30th. So he's familiar with the place, but we kind of know what we need to be looking for, and we're going to go as find as much. That's the only thing he lacks winning in high school. Everything else he's either done multiple times. It's just a national championship. And he told me, he said, Dad, he wasn't even going to fish high school this year. He said, I'm going to win every one of them this year, and I'm going to win the state and the national title. Well, we're down to the national title, and he's just about done all the other he said. So we'll see. Maybe to luck up and go his way.
Well, we sure wish you the very best. Look great. Just cram-packed calendar for you guys, and wish you the very best, and do it the right way. You're a great representative of the Alabama Bass Trail. Congratulations again on winning over $15,000. Cashing your ticket. I mean, you're already high in the points, but automatically making it to Lay Lake, making it to the Bass Team Championship. Heck of a year for you guys. Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that wraps it up for the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. We'll be right back with your third and final segment. Get this thing wrapped up and get you back out on the water. We'll be right back.
Nobody wants to run out of power when they're on the water. There is a better way. Introducing the Charge Marine Power Management Station from PowerPole that does the work of 3 devices: a traditional battery charger, a charge on the run, and an emergency start system. PowerPole Charge.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats, your third segment. We're going to wrap it up, but I want to talk a little bit about the tournament, about the Angler of the Year race and how all that went down. You got to see it if you watch live. It was a phenomenal day of bass fishing. Talked to Fisher and Ryan a little bit off camera, talking about some of the things that they went through on Saturday. Again, 26-34 is what it took to win. They had 5 fish, 1 dead. We talked a little bit about they knew they had to come in order to save that second fish. It would have changed. We've seen that 2 fish dead have changed the results significantly. We saw that with Shane Jewell and Eddie Jewell 2 years ago on Wheeler. But 40th place was 1829 5 fish. They are the big fish winners at 7.75. Jackson Kaiser, Cameron Robinson. Overall, the weight to win from 2022, the last June tournament that we had, the weight is up. And then also the big fish was 735 then. It was 775 now. Again, if you want to compare June tournaments to June tournaments, in 2022, 206 teams participated. And get my 24 up here. 206 teams participated this weekend. More teams had limits, 152 limits. The big fish was bigger. The overall weight was bigger. Number of fish weighed in this year, 850 as opposed to 720 in 2022. So for all the social media, biologists, fishermen, scientists, all the things, the data doesn't lie. Yes, Dead fish suck, and we hate them. That's why we have the stiffest dead fish penalty in all of bass fishing. You can only weigh one dead fish, and it is a pound penalty. So, yeah, we hate dead fish. Our anglers don't want dead fish. They don't want to fall 30 places in the points. And just for instance, a 1 pound penalty drops you, let's see, would have been a difference of about $4,000 to, well, no, it would have been a difference of $3,500 this week. So 2634 for the win, 1829 is what it took to take home the 40th place check. Let's talk a little bit about the Angler of the Year race, top 9, moving on to that Bass Team Championship. Another pretty impressive feat. Justin Bussey, Ben Webb, 1,079 points, not only taking home the Angler of the Year in the North Division, but also the overall Anglers of the Year by 15 points over CJ Knight and Anthony Goggins, who we still think had a phenomenal season. Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker, they had 1,046 points, which would have put them in second overall, just 19 points shy of first place for the overall. And then Craig Grubbs, Matt Ferguson, they had 1,029 points. That would have put them third overall. And then the Rob Lee, Steve Winslet, 1,027. That would have put them officially fourth in the overall race. So that kind of tells how that went down. Mark McKeag, Tim Hurst slide into the 9th place in the North. So they'll make it to the Bass Team Championship in the North Division. But you can see all of that on the website at alabamabasstrail.org. Click on Angler of the Year, and then you'll have the North-South couples, teams, and all of that. So I think for the North Division, we were taking 81 teams. We went down to 80th place, and then we have one team that was outside of the top 75 that had won an event. So we're going down to 80th place there. And then in the South Division, we are going down to 83rd place. A lot more double qualifiers in the South than in the North. So top 5 high school, top 5 couples. Based on my calculations, we're somewhere around that 170 to 171 teams making it onto the championship. We'll announce all of that probably Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. As you're listening to this on Tuesday, it's recorded on Monday. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more in next week's podcast when we interview CJ Knight, Anthony Goggins, and Justin Bussey and Ben Webb. So wrapped it up. We're going to talk a little bit more about how many new winners we had and all of that as we do the interview next week with the Anglers of the Year. We'll look back a little bit more in the year, kind of give you an update on all of that. But I did want to give enough time to Fisher and Ryan Anaya to talk a little bit about their win, their year, and the other things that Fisher's been able to do out there this year in bass fishing. So do want to remind you, we are just about 51 days away for the Alabama Bass Trail registration opening for 2025. We are getting tons of emails, text messages, Facebook messages about that. New teams can register August the 15th at 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can't even start until 5:30. So it's not like you enter all your information and then hit click. You start registering at 5:30. You'll choose your division. You'll click on, it'll show you North or South Division. Once you click that, it will be a race to the credit card processor. So please make sure that you watch our videos, read our updates on what you'll need to sign in for that so that we have accurate information to get in touch with you. A reminder, it does follow you the entire way of the Alabama Bass Trail. So your registration, your email address, your physical address, and your cell phone, we need all of that data so that we can contact you throughout the year. So I want to recap a little bit about the year of the Alabama Bass Trail in the 2024 season. It was our 11th season out here. It is our second year with WOTM, the great people at Broadway Media. They are our live stream company. They do a fantastic job. Herbie and Thomas have been on site with us most of the time this year. Robert, Vince, and some of the guys in the back office working in Birmingham and Sylacauga throughout the early mornings and the late evenings as we are doing live. So I want to thank them for being a part of the Alabama Bass Trail team. Also, anglerschannel.com. They are producing your TV show. Up next, the Wheeler Lake Tournament. will be on Valley Sports Southeast as well as on WAFF, our local channel here in Huntsville. And you can always find those on Alabama Bass Trail TV on our YouTube channel as well. They've done a phenomenal job. Ben, Brenton, Russell, Jared, Noah, Dickinson, bringing you all of the still shots from all of the events. If you haven't looked at the Alabama Bass Trail photo galleries, please make sure that you do that. Log on to alabamabasstrail.org and click on galleries. You'll have an option for video or photos. Please make sure that you're going on there and looking at the photos. He does a phenomenal job. You might see your favorite angler on there. So please make sure that you are looking at those. For John Simpson, Daniel Montgomery, all of the guys, Mark, Frank, Todd, Brody, JD, Landon, AJ, let's see, we've had Preston this year, Kai this year, trying to go through all of the areas that they serve. It's been a very busy year for all of our team. We sincerely thank you for choosing to fish the Alabama Bass Trail. We know you have a choice. There are lots of great tournament trails out there, especially in the great state of Alabama. We are thankful that you choose to fish the Alabama Bass Trail. We know that you not only spend your time and your resources with us, we know you miss things at home because you're with the Alabama Bass Trail. We sincerely appreciate that. I don't ever want that to go unknown. We certainly appreciate that. I do want to thank Luke, Duncan, Derry, and Craig, and Jason Duran for being out on the water each tournament this year. Matt Lee for helping fill in when we were short someone. I really appreciate those guys going out there in the cold, 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 and then the hot, hot, hot to bring you all the live coverage. I want to thank you for tuning in on live. It has been a phenomenal year on the Alabama Bass Trail. We appreciate you. We appreciate all of our fans. And certainly want to thank you for that. So I do also want to thank my family. It's been a crazy year. Jake going back and playing his 5th year of college baseball, which was not expected. So I had a little bit more running around this year to do than I expected. But I appreciate everybody filling in the gaps when I couldn't be there. We have a phenomenal team, and I'll say it, and I'll put them up against any team in bass fishing, whether it be professional level or amateur level. We do have the best team on the Alabama Bass Trail, and I sincerely thank them. Thank our sponsors. We could not do this without you. We do play 113% back to the anglers, and it costs a lot of money to do what we do. So our sponsors that have been with us since day one, and once we added this year, we hope that you find value in the Alabama Bass Trail. We hope you find loyalty within our angler group, our host cities for rolling out the red carpet anytime we've come to town. It has been an honor to be your guest this year, and we hope to have long-term relationships with each of you. Thank you so much for everything you've done for the Alabama Bass Trail. We certainly appreciate you. To Lee Centel, our state tourism director, for just the support that he gives us each year. Really, really appreciate that, as well as our board of directors and the Alabama Mountain Lakes Tourist Association. Thank you so much for giving us a home. But until next week, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I do hope you will subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcasting app. Please give us a thumbs up over on YouTube. Comment what you would like for us to cover, anyone you would like for us to interview. We'd be glad to do that as well. For your winners of the 2024 Alabama Bass Trail North Division Lake Guntersville, Fisher Anaya and Ryan Anaya, we appreciate you tuning in. Y'all have a blessed day, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.